Marcus Brennan's world ended twice. The first time was 3 years ago when his wife Catherine died in a fire trying to save their 18-month-old daughter from the flames. Catherine didn't make it out. Little Sophia did, but the smoke and trauma left her completely blind. At least, that's what every specialist told him. The second time his world ended was the morning he realized the woman he trusted with his daughter's future had been selling her. But he's getting ahead of himself. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really begins. Marcus Brennan built an empire from code and vision. At 38, his cybersecurity company protected half the Fortune 500. His Connecticut estate sprawled across 42 acres, complete with indoor pool, tennis courts, and a staff of 12. Money solved most problems in his world, until it couldn't solve anything that mattered. Catherine had been his college sweetheart, the marketing director who made him laugh during 18-hour workdays. When Sophia was born, Catherine quit her job, said she wanted to be present for every moment. Marcus worked harder, built bigger, gave them everything. Then came that October night. Electrical fire, they said. Started in the nursery wiring. Catherine was in the shower when the alarms went off. She ran into the smoke, found Sophia's crib, got her out the window to the groundskeeper. Then she went back in for the baby monitor, the photo albums, the things she couldn't bear to lose. The ceiling collapsed. Marcus was in Tokyo closing a deal when he got the call. He chartered a jet, flew home through a fog of disbelief. When he arrived, his house was a smoking shell. His wife was in the morgue, and his daughter was in a hospital bed, eyes open but unseeing. The pediatric ophthalmologist, Dr. Helena Voss, delivered the second blow with clinical precision. The smoke exposure caused severe optic nerve damage. Combined with the trauma, your daughter has lost her vision permanently. I'm very sorry, Mr. Brennan. There's nothing we can do. Marcus stared at his baby girl, 18 months old, bandages wrapped around her tiny body, and felt something inside him calcify into stone. He rebuilt the house. Bigger, safer, fire suppression systems in every room. But he couldn't rebuild his heart. Work became his refuge. Board meetings, acquisitions, expansions, anything to avoid the silence of a house where his daughter sat motionless by windows she couldn't see through. Sophia never cried for her mother. The therapists said the trauma had locked something away inside her. She didn't speak much, didn't respond to touch, just existed in a gray world Marcus couldn't reach. 3 years passed like that, a loop of specialists, medications, therapies that led nowhere. Then Vivian Ashford entered his life. She was at a charity gala, stunning in an emerald silk, telling a story about volunteering at a children's hospital. She had kind eyes, a gentle laugh, and she asked about Sophia, with what seemed like genuine concern. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Vivian moved into the estate, took interest in Sophia's care, attended every doctor's appointment. She seemed perfect, patient, devoted. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. That perfection should have been Marcus's first warning. After Catherine's death, Marcus installed cameras everywhere, motion sensors in every hallway, live feeds accessible from his phone, time-stamped recordings backed up to secure servers. It wasn't about trust. It was about never being caught off guard again. The estate had seen 9 caregivers in 3 years. The first one posted photos of the house on social media, violating the NDA. The second stole Catherine's jewelry. The third gave an interview to a tabloid about the tragic billionaire's broken daughter. 4 through 9 lasted weeks before Marcus found reasons to let them go. Too chatty, too familiar, not following the medication schedule exactly. He'd become impossible to work for, and he knew it, but Sophia was all he had left of Catherine. He couldn't risk someone hurting her again. Most nights, after Vivian went to bed, Marcus sat in his study reviewing the day's footage, watching his daughter sit motionless in her room, watching the staff move through their routines, watching for threats he couldn't name but felt in his bones. The cameras showed him everything except what he needed to see. Then came the morning he hired Elena Rodriguez. Elena Rodriguez was 26 and looked exhausted. She sat across from Marcus in his study, hands folded in her lap, answering his questions in a steady voice that didn't try to impress. "Why did you leave your last position?" he asked. "The family moved to Singapore. I have family here. I couldn't leave." "What family?" "My younger brother. He's 14, special needs. I'm his legal guardian." Marcus studied her. "You're raising a teenager and you want to take care of my daughter?" "I need the work, Mr. Brennan, but I'm also good at it. I was a pediatric occupational therapist before my parents died. I understand children who've experienced trauma." Something in her tone made him pause. Not pity, not presumption, just stated fact. "My daughter doesn't respond to anyone," he said. "Every therapy has failed. I'm not looking for miracles. I'm looking for someone who can follow Dr. Voss's protocols exactly. Medications at 7, noon, and 7. Sensory exercises twice daily. No deviations." Elena nodded. "I understand." No bonding, no getting attached. Every caregiver who's tried that has made things worse. "Worse for Sophia or worse for you?" she asked quietly. Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's inappropriate." "I apologize," Elena said, but her eyes didn't drop. "It's just that sometimes protecting children from attachment also protects us from loss. I understand that impulse, but in my experience, children heal through connection, not isolation." He should have fired her on the spot for that observation. Instead, he hired her. That night, Marcus watched the first footage of Elena in Sophia's room. She moved differently than the others. No forced cheerfulness, no exaggerated gestures. She simply sat beside Sophia and began talking in a low, gentle voice. "Hello, Sophia. My name is Elena. Your daddy hired me to spend time with you. I have a brother about your age in kid years, but he had to stay home tonight. He really wanted me to tell you he thinks your room is cool. He spotted your bookshelf from the photos I showed him." She paused, as if listening. "I'm going to be here most days. I won't push you to do anything you don't want to do, but I'm here if you need anything. Okay?" Sophia didn't respond, didn't turn her head, didn't acknowledge Elena's presence at all, but Marcus thought he saw something, the slightest shift in Sophia's shoulders, like she was listening even if she wouldn't show it. Elena stayed in that chair for 2 hours, sometimes talking, sometimes silent, just being present. When she left, she paused at the door and said softly, "Good night, Sophia. I'll see you tomorrow." Marcus turned off the feed, uncertain why his chest felt tight. By day 3, Elena had already broken half his rules. She brought a small music player, played soft piano compositions during Sophia's supposed rest time. She rearranged the sensory toys so they made different sounds when touched. She started leaving the curtains open, flooding the room with afternoon light. Marcus watched from his study, ready to call her and demand she follow the schedule. But then he saw something that stopped him. Sophia turned her head toward the window where sunlight streamed through, just slightly, just for a moment. But she turned. That afternoon, during Sophia's physical therapy time, Elena did something no other caregiver had attempted. Instead of moving Sophia's limbs through the prescribed exercises, she took Sophia's hand and placed it on a textured ball. "Feel that?" Elena said. "It's bumpy, like a tiny mountain range. My brother loves these. He says they feel like dragon scales." Sophia's fingers moved, exploring the texture, actually exploring. Marcus zoomed in on the footage, heart pounding. Then Elena did something that made his breath catch. She took Sophia's hand and guided it to her own face. "This is my nose," Elena said. "Kind of big, honestly. My mom used to say it gave me character. And here," she moved Sophia's tiny fingers, "this is my smile. I smile a lot. It's a habit." Sophia's lips curved. Barely, but unmistakably. A smile. 3 years, and his daughter smiled. That evening, when Vivian came home from her yoga class, Marcus was still in his study, staring at the paused footage. "Darling, you've been in here for hours," Vivian said, leaning against the doorframe. "Come to bed." "The new caregiver," he said. "She's different." Vivian's expression flickered. "Different how?" "She got Sophia to smile today." "Really?" Vivian moved closer, heels clicking on the hardwood. "That's wonderful. Though you know how these things can be misleading, a smile might just be a reflex." "It wasn't a reflex." Vivian studied him. "You're getting attached to the idea of progress. That's dangerous, Marcus. Every time you've hoped before, it's led to disappointment." She was right, of course. Hope had betrayed him before, but something in Vivian's tone felt wrong, not concerned, protective maybe, but of what? "I'm just observing," he said carefully. "Good." She kissed his forehead. "Don't let anyone give you false hope. That's cruelty disguised as kindness." After she left, Marcus pulled up the footage again, watched Sophia's smile, watched Elena's patient, gentle approach. And for the first time in 3 years, he felt something dangerous bloom in his chest. Hope. Elena Rodriguez had learned to trust her instincts during 7 years of working with traumatized children, and every instinct she had was screaming that something was wrong in the Brennan household. It wasn't just Sophia's condition, though that troubled her deeply. It was the way Vivian watched her, the way the fiancé would appear in doorways when Elena was working with Sophia, arms crossed, face carefully neutral, but eyes calculating. It was the medication schedule that made no medical sense. Elena had worked with blind children before. She knew the standard treatments, the therapy approaches, the realistic timelines for adaptation and development. What Dr. Voss had prescribed for Sophia was none of those things. 3 times daily, Elena administered eye drops that made Sophia's pupils dilate so severely the little girl would whimper and turn away from even dim light. Oral medications that left her lethargic, disconnected, vitamin injections that seemed to suppress rather than support her nervous system. "What exactly are these treating?" Elena had asked Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, during her first week. The older woman had shrugged. "Dr. Voss says they're specialized treatments, very expensive. Mr. Brennan pays for the best." "But the best of what?" Elena wondered. By the end of week 2, she started documenting everything. She photographed medication labels, noting dosages and frequency. She recorded Sophia's responses in a private journal, entries she kept locked in her car. Day 14. Sophia reached for a toy today before the noon medication. Afterward, she withdrew completely. The timing can't be coincidence. Day 16. When I accidentally skipped the morning eye drops, claimed the bottle fell and spilled, Sophia was more alert all afternoon. She turned toward sounds, seemed to track movement. By evening, after the makeup dose Vivian personally administered, she was blank again. Day 18. I'm certain now these medications aren't treating blindness, they're causing it. The question that haunted Elena's sleepless nights was simple and terrible. Why she began testing Sophia carefully during the brief windows between medications when the little girl seemed most present. Elena would move colorful objects across Sophia's field of vision, sometimes nothing. But other times, Sophia's eyes would track the movement just slightly, like she was trying to see through fog. One afternoon when Vivian was out and Marcus was in back-to-back conference calls, Elena tried something radical. She took Sophia outside. The little girl hadn't been in the garden in months. Elena carried her to a bench beneath a flowering cherry tree, sat with Sophia in her lap, and just waited. The afternoon sun was gentle, filtered through pink blossoms. A warm breeze carried the scent of early roses. Birds sang in the hedges. Slowly, Sophia's face turned upward, toward the light, toward the warmth, and she whispered so softly Elena almost missed it. "Mama?" Elena's throat tightened. No, sweetheart, I'm Elena, but I'm here. I'm right here, here with you. Sophia's small hand reached up, touched Elena's face, exploring like she had during their first week together. Pretty, Sophia whispered. What's pretty, baby? Sophia's hand moved from Elena's face to point upward. Pink. Mama's pink. Elena looked up at the cherry blossoms, then back at Sophia's face. The little girl's eyes weren't focused, but they were open, turned toward the flowers above. She could see color. Catherine Brennan must have loved these trees, must have brought Sophia here as a baby. And somehow, through medications designed to keep her in darkness, Sophia remembered and was seeing again. Yes, baby, Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. The blossoms are pink, just like your mama loved. That night, Elena did something dangerous. She logged into the medical database using credentials a former colleague had shared for research purposes. She looked up Dr. Helena Voss. What she found made her blood run cold. Dr. Voss had been investigated twice for insurance fraud. The cases were dismissed due to lack of evidence, but the pattern was clear. Patients who never improved, families who paid millions for experimental treatments, medications prescribed off-label, in combinations no legitimate doctor would use. And there was something else. A sealed lawsuit from 5 years ago, a family claiming their daughter had been deliberately kept ill to maximize billing. The case settled confidentially. Elena sat in her small apartment, her brother sleeping in the next room, and stared at her laptop screen until her eyes burned. Sophia Brennan wasn't born blind. The fire trauma hadn't destroyed her vision. Someone was actively blinding her, and had been for 3 years. The question was whether Marcus knew. Marcus Brennan prided himself on reading people. It's how he'd built a cybersecurity empire, by anticipating threats before they materialized. So why hadn't he seen what was happening in his own home? It was a Thursday evening, late March, when the carefully constructed lies finally shattered. Marcus was supposed to be in Boston for a merger meeting, but the deal fell through at the last minute, and he drove home early, pulling into the estate just after 7. The house was quiet, too quiet. He found Mrs. Chen in the kitchen, her face pale. "Where's Sophia?" he asked. "Miss Vivian took her to the appointment." "What appointment? Dr. Voss isn't scheduled until next week." Mrs. Chen wrung her hands. "I don't know, Mr. Brennan. Miss Vivian just said there was a special consultation. She took Sophia 2 hours ago." Something cold coiled in Marcus's stomach. He pulled out his phone, opened the tracking app linked to Vivian's car. The GPS showed her vehicle parked at an address in Hartford, not a medical building, a residential street. He was in his car before he could think it through. The drive took 38 minutes. The whole way, Marcus's mind spun through possibilities, each worse than the last. Maybe Vivian had a friend who was a doctor, someone offering a second opinion. Maybe it was a surprise therapy program. Maybe. The address was a modest townhouse in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing about it suggested medical care. Vivian's Mercedes was parked on the street. Marcus approached the front door, heart hammering. Through the window he could see movement, voices muffled but heated. He tried the door, unlocked. The scene that greeted him when he stepped inside would replay in his nightmares for years. Vivian stood in a cramped living room holding Sophia. Across from her was a couple in their 50s, the woman crying, the man's face hard with anger. "You promised us," the man was saying. "You said the adoption was legal. You said..." "It is legal," Vivian snapped. "I have her father's power of attorney for medical decisions. That extends to..." "To selling his daughter," the woman sobbed. "This is a child, not a transaction." Marcus's vision tunneled. What the hell is going on here? Everyone froze. Vivian spun, her face draining of color. "Marcus, you're supposed to be in Boston." "Put my daughter down. This isn't what it looks like. Put her down." Vivian set Sophia on the couch. The little girl immediately curled into herself, sensing the tension. The couple backed away, the woman still crying. "We didn't know," she whispered, "but..." We swear we thought this was legitimate. We've been waiting for years to adopt. And she said, "How much?" Marcus's voice was ice. The man flinched. She said 200,000 for medical expenses and legal fees. "Get out," Marcus said quietly. "Both of you, now." They fled. Marcus turned to Vivian. She stood perfectly still, calculating. He could see her mind working, spinning the story she'd tell. "It's not what you think," she began. "Then what is it? These people were desperate for a child. And you're never here, Marcus. You work 80 hours a week. Sophia just sits in that house like a ghost. You thought you'd sell her?" "Rehome her," Vivian corrected, her voice taking on a defensive edge. "To people who could actually give her attention, who wanted her." Marcus felt something crack open inside his chest. "She's my daughter. She's a burden you can't handle." Vivian's mask slipped completely. "Do you know what it's like living in that house? With that broken child? With you buried in work, pretending she doesn't exist? So you decided to get rid of her and pocket $200,000? It wasn't just about money. I was trying to help." "Help yourself," Marcus finished. His hands were shaking. "How long have you been planning this?" Vivian's silence was answer enough. Marcus walked to the couch, scooped Sophia into his arms. She wrapped her small arms around his neck, buried her face against his shoulder. "Daddy," she whispered. His eyes burned. When was the last time she'd called him that? "I'm here, baby girl. I've got you." He carried her toward the door. "Marcus, wait," Vivian called. "We can talk about this. I made a mistake, but we can fix it. Think about what you're throwing away. Think about us." He paused at the door, looked back at her. "There is no us," he said quietly. "There never was. You were just waiting for the right price." Outside, the March evening had turned cold. Marcus held Sophia close as he walked to his car, his mind reeling. But as he buckled her into the car seat, something else hit him. If Vivian had been planning to sell Sophia, she'd need Sophia to stay helpless, dependent, damaged. She'd need Sophia to stay blind. Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He scrolled to the security app, pulled up the home cameras, rewound to that morning. There was Vivian in Sophia's room. There was the medication tray, and there was Vivian adding something extra to Sophia's morning juice. A liquid from a small brown bottle she pulled from her pocket, a bottle that wasn't on Dr. Voss's prescription list. Marcus watched as his daughter drank it, watched as Sophia's eyes went unfocused, her body went limp, watched as Vivian smiled. His phone slipped from his hands, clattered against the car's interior. "Oh God," he whispered. "Oh my God, what have you done?" Behind him, in the back seat, Sophia stirred. "Daddy?" He turned, saw his daughter's face in the dim light. Her eyes were trying to focus, actually trying. "I'm here, baby." "My eyes hurt," she whispered. "Everything hurts." I know, sweetheart, but we're going to fix it. I promise you, we're going to fix everything." He started the car, hands still shaking, and drove. Not home, not to the estate where Vivian had spent months poisoning his daughter, to the hospital, to answers, to the truth that would burn his entire world down. The emergency room at Yale New Haven Hospital was fluorescent bright and busy with the usual Thursday night chaos. Marcus burst through the doors carrying Sophia, and the triage nurse took one look at his face and moved them to the front of the line. "My daughter," Marcus said, his voice raw. "She's been poisoned for months, maybe years. I need a full toxicology screen. I need—" "Sir, slow down," the nurse said gently. "Let's get her into a room." Within minutes, Sophia was in a bed, doctors surrounding her, asking questions Marcus could barely answer. What medications was she on? What were the symptoms? How long had this been happening? "I don't know," he kept saying. "I trusted the doctors. I trusted—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Dr. Sarah Chen, the attending physician, had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She sat beside him while her team worked, drawing blood, checking vitals, examining Sophia's eyes with specialized equipment. "Mr. Brennan," she said quietly, Your daughter's pupils are massively dilated. That's not normal, even for someone with optic nerve damage. What eye drops has she been using? Marcus pulled out his phone, found the photos he'd taken of Sophia's medication schedule months ago during one of his rare organized moments. Dr. Chen's face went pale as she read. "This is atropine," she said, "at a concentration 50 times higher than what's ever used therapeutically. This would cause severe photophobia, blurred vision, and over time could absolutely impair visual development in a young child." But the doctor said, "What doctor prescribed this?" "Dr. Helena Voss. She's been treating Sophia since the fire." Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. "Dr. Voss's medical license was suspended last year, pending investigation. She shouldn't be treating anyone." The room tilted. Marcus gripped the chair. "That's impossible. She saw Sophia 2 weeks ago." "Then she's practicing illegally," Dr. Chen said. "And Mr. Brennan, if what you're telling me is true, if someone has been deliberately administering toxic medications to your daughter, this isn't just malpractice, this is criminal abuse." The words hung in the sterile air. Criminal abuse of his daughter for 3 years, while he'd been too buried in work, too drowning in grief, too trusting to see it. "There's something else," Dr. Chen said gently. "We did a preliminary visual response test. Your daughter's eyes are tracking light. She has some visual function." Marcus's breath caught. "What?" "She's not completely blind. Maybe she never was. But the medications she's been on, combined with being kept in dim environments, would have prevented normal visual development. Her brain learned not to use the signals her eyes were sending." "Can you fix it?" "We need to clear these drugs from her system first. Then we'll know what we're working with. But Mr. Brennan, if we'd waited much longer, the damage might have been permanent." Marcus covered his face with his hands. How many times had he walked past Sophia's room, too busy for more than a quick good night? How many doctor's appointments had he missed, trusting Vivian to handle it? How many nights had he watched security footage but never really looked at what he was seeing? His phone buzzed. Vivian calling. He let it ring. It buzzed again. A text this time. "We need to talk. What you saw tonight, you misunderstood. Come home. Let me explain." Then another message. "Don't do anything rash. Think about what this will do to your reputation, to the company. These accusations could destroy everything you've built." Marcus stared at the screen. Even now, she was threatening him, trying to control the narrative. He blocked her number. By midnight, the hospital had admitted Sophia for observation. The toxicology results wouldn't even be complete for hours. But the preliminary findings were damning. Atropine, cycloplegics, mild sedatives, all in combinations designed to impair rather than heal. Marcus sat beside Sophia's bed, watching her sleep. Her face was peaceful for the first time in months. The hospital lights were dim but not dark, and even in sleep, her eyes moved beneath closed lids, tracking dreams he hoped weren't nightmares. His phone buzzed again, not Vivian this time. "Elena Rodriguez. Mr. Brennan, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner. I suspected the medications were wrong, but I didn't have proof, and I was afraid." He called her. "You knew?" His voice was rough. "I suspected," Elena said, and he could hear tears in her voice. "But I'm just a caregiver. Who would believe me over a doctor, over your fiancé?" "You should have told me. I tried. That first week I asked about the medications. You told me to follow Dr. Voss's protocols exactly, no deviations." Marcus closed his eyes. She was right. He'd shut down any questioning, too afraid that hope would lead to more pain. "Elena," he said quietly, "how much did Sophia respond to you?" "The truth." She tracked colors. She turned toward light. She smiled, laughed, reached for things. "Mr. Brennan, your daughter can see. Not perfectly, but she can see. And she's been fighting so hard to show you, but the medications kept pulling her back under." His throat closed. "I need you to come to the hospital. There are going to be police, child protective services, investigations. They'll need to hear what you observed. Of course, I'll be there in 20 minutes. After she hung up, Marcus sat in the silence of the hospital room. Through the window he could see Hartford's lights spreading into the darkness. Somewhere out there, Vivian was planning her next move. Dr. Voss was probably being warned, destroying evidence, preparing her defense. And Marcus Brennan, who'd built a company protecting others from digital threats, had failed to protect his own daughter from the threat living in his house. His phone buzzed once more. Unknown number, you're making a terrible mistake. Some things are better left buried. Think about Sophia's future. Do you really want her growing up knowing her father destroyed her mother's memory over misunderstandings? Catherine. They were going to use Catherine against him. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. Then he forwarded the message to the detective Dr. Chen had called, added it to the evidence. Let them threaten. Let them try to twist this into something it wasn't. He was done protecting people who'd hurt his daughter. The truth was coming, whether it destroyed him or not. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Dawn broke gray over Hartford, painting the hospital windows in shades of steel and silver. Marcus hadn't slept. He sat in the chair beside Sophia's bed, watching his daughter breathe, counting each rise and fall of her small chest like a prayer. Elena had arrived at 2 a.m, still in her pajamas with a coat thrown over them. She'd sat with him in silence for an hour before the police came, then told them everything. Every medication she'd documented, every moment Sophia had responded to color or light, every suspicion she'd been too afraid to voice. Detective Lisa Morrison took notes with a grim expression. We've already picked up Dr. Voss for questioning. Her medical license was suspended 14 months ago for insurance fraud. She's been practicing illegally since then. And Vivian? Marcus asked. We're looking for her. She's not at the estate. Her phone's off. Credit cards haven't been used since yesterday evening. Of course, Vivian was too smart to be caught easily. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway, holding a tablet. Mr. Brennan, I have the full toxicology results. Marcus stood. Elena moved beside him, her hand finding his arm for support. Your daughter has been systematically poisoned, Dr. Chen said, her voice steady but angry. Atropine levels consistent with months of excessive use. Benzodiazepines at doses that would keep a child sedated. And something else, a compound we had to send to a specialty lab to identify. What compound? A veterinary sedative used on horses. In small doses over time, it would cause cognitive impairment, suppress neurological development, and create the appearance of severe disability. The room went silent. She was drugging my daughter like an animal, Marcus whispered. Yes, Dr. Chen said. And Mr. Brennan, if Elena hadn't been documenting the response patterns, if you hadn't brought Sophia in when you did, the damage would have been irreversible. Another few months and your daughter's visual cortex might never have recovered. Marcus's legs gave out. He sat heavily in the chair, head in his hands. How long until she's clear? The atropine will metabolize in 72 hours. The sedatives will take longer, maybe a week, but already we're seeing improvement. This morning, Sophia tracked the nurse's pen light across the room. Both eyes coordinated movement. Marcus looked at his daughter, still sleeping peacefully. She can really see? We won't know the full extent until the drug's clear, but yes, your daughter has functional vision. She always did. By afternoon, the story had broken. Not because Marcus wanted it public, but because 3 other families had come forward after Dr. Voss's arrest. 3 other children, all diagnosed with incurable conditions, all on similar medication cocktails, all from wealthy families with excellent insurance. The press was calling it the stolen sight scandal. Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His board of directors demanding statements, reporters camped outside the hospital. his lawyer calling every 20 minutes with updates. But Marcus ignored it all. He sat beside Sophia's bed, watching her wake up. Her eyes opened slowly, blinked against the afternoon light filtering through the blinds. Then she turned her head and looked directly at him. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, uncertain, but her eyes, those beautiful brown eyes that looked so much like Catherine's, they were focused, actually seeing him. "Hi, baby girl," Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I'm here. Where's Elena?" "I'm right here, sweetheart," Elena said, appearing at the other side of the bed. Sophia's face broke into a smile, genuine and bright. She reached for both of them, one hand to Marcus, one to Elena. "I can see you," she said, wonder in her voice. "I can see both of you." Marcus broke. 3 years of grief, guilt, and fear poured out in sobs he couldn't control. Elena took his hand across Sophia's bed, squeezed tight. "You're safe now," Elena told Sophia. "No more medicine that makes you sleepy. No more darkness." "Is Miss Vivian coming back?" Marcus's chest tightened. "No, baby, she's not coming back. She hurt you, and she's never going to hurt you again." Sophia thought about that. Good. She was scary. "She was," Marcus agreed, "and I'm sorry I didn't see that. I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you." Sophia touched his face, her small fingers exploring his features. "You're here now." Such simple words, such devastating forgiveness. They caught Vivian 3 days later trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands. She'd accessed one of Marcus's offshore accounts, transferred $500,000, and planned to disappear. The arrest was all over the news, but Marcus barely watched. He'd taken an indefinite leave from the company, moved a cot into Sophia's hospital room, and for the first time in 3 years, he was simply present. He read her stories, played simple games, watched as her vision slowly sharpened, as colors became brighter, as the world came into focus for her. Elena visited every day, bringing Sophia drawings from her brother, teaching her songs, helping her relearn how to interact with a world she could finally see. "You should hire her permanently," Dr. Chen said one afternoon, watching Elena and Sophia paint together. "That woman saved your daughter's life." "I know," Marcus said. "I'm just not sure how to ask, after everything I put her through." "Try starting with thank you." That evening, after Sophia fell asleep, Marcus found Elena in the family waiting room. "Can we talk?" he asked. She looked up from the magazine she wasn't reading. "Of course." He sat across from her, suddenly uncertain how to begin. "I owe you everything," he finally said. "You saw what I was too blind to see. You protected Sophia when I failed her. You questioned what everyone else accepted as truth. I just did what was right." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You did what was extraordinary. You risked your job, your reputation, maybe even your safety to protect a child who wasn't yours. That's not just right. That's heroic." Elena's eyes filled. "I couldn't save my parents. I was working a double shift when they had the accident. If I'd been there, if I'd been paying attention, maybe I could have—" Her voice broke. "You can't save everyone," Marcus said quietly. "Believe me, I know, but you saved Sophia. You gave her back her sight, her future, her life." "We saved her," Elena corrected. "You brought her to the hospital. You believed the evidence even when it destroyed everything you thought you knew." They sat in silence for a moment. "The trial's going to be brutal," Marcus said. "Vivian's lawyers are claiming she was trying to help Sophia by finding her a more attentive family. Dr. Voss is saying she was following experimental protocols. They're going to make me look like a negligent father who worked too much." "Were you negligent?" Elena asked gently. Marcus flinched. "Yes." "Then own it. Tell the truth. Tell them you were drowning in grief and someone you trusted used that against you. Tell them you failed, but you're not failing anymore." "Is it that simple?" "No," Elena said, "but it's honest, and Sophia deserves a father who tells the truth, even when it's hard." 6 months later, the Brennan estate looked different. The cameras were still there. Marcus's paranoia hadn't disappeared completely, but the house itself felt lighter. Curtains open, flowers in vases, children's laughter echoing through halls that had been silent for too long. Sophia, now 4.5, wore glasses, pink frames she'd picked out herself. Her vision wasn't perfect. The years of medication had caused some permanent damage, but she could see colors, faces, the world around her. She could see her father when he came home from work at 5 instead of midnight. She could see Elena, who'd accepted the position of director of the Sophia Brennan Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to identifying medical abuse in pediatric care. And she could see the photos of Catherine that Marcus had finally put back on the walls. "Is that my mama?" Sophia asked one evening, pointing to a picture of Catherine in the garden. "Yes, baby, that's your mama. She's pretty, like Elena." Marcus smiled. She was beautiful, and she would have loved Elena, too. Elena had moved into the guest house on the property, bringing her brother with her. The teenage boy and Sophia had become unlikely friends, him teaching her about dinosaurs and space, her teaching him that someone else's trauma didn't define them. The trial had been as brutal as predicted. Vivian was sentenced to 15 years for child endangerment, fraud, and attempted human trafficking. Dr. Voss got 22 years for medical fraud, spanning a decade and harming 17 children. Marcus had testified for 2 days, admitting every failure, every moment he'd chosen work over his daughter, every warning sign he'd ignored. The media had been vicious, but he'd survived it. More importantly, Sophia had survived. One evening in late September, Marcus found Elena in the garden where Catherine's cherry trees bloomed pink. "She loves it out here," Elena said, watching Sophia chase fireflies with her brother. "Catherine used to bring her here as a baby," Marcus said. "I haven't been able to come out here since the fire, until now." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the children play. "I never thanked you properly," Marcus said, "for everything. You thank me every day by showing up, by being the father Sophia needs." "I want to be more than that," Marcus said quietly, "for both of you." Elena turned to look at him. "Marcus, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I know this is complicated. I know I'm still healing, and you have your own life, your brother to think about. But I need you to know that you and your family, you're part of ours now, however that looks." Elena smiled, soft and sad and hopeful all at once. "One day at a time, one day at a time," he agreed. Sophia ran over, breathless and laughing. "Daddy, Elena, look!" She held up her hands, cupped carefully. "I caught a firefly. I can see it glowing." Marcus knelt down, looked at the tiny light pulsing in his daughter's palms. "That's magic, baby girl. Can we keep it?" "No," Elena said gently. "Magic needs to be free, but we can watch it together before we let it go." They sat in the grass, the three of them, watching the firefly glow against Sophia's small hands. Then she opened her palms and it flew away, joining dozens of others dancing above the garden. "It's not alone," Sophia said wonderingly. "There are so many." "Just like you," Marcus said, pulling her close. "You're not alone anymore either." As darkness settled over the garden, fireflies filled the air like fallen stars. Marcus held his daughter, Elena, beside them and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. Not because everything was fixed. The scars remained. Some wounds would never fully heal, but they were together, they were honest, and they were finally free. Above them, the cherry blossoms whispered in the wind, and Marcus swore he could hear Catherine's voice in the rustling leaves. "Well done. Take care of our girl." "I will," he whispered back. "I promise. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But sometimes a stranger with nothing to gain and everything to lose becomes the hero we never knew we needed." What would you do if you suspected something was wrong but had no proof? Would you speak up or stay silent? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us why truth, no matter how painful, is always worth fighting for.